Hello, demons, fae, and those in between. This is Dizzy, and I'll be continuing A Thing with Wings by PaperPuffin. This is going to be Chapter 8 and Chapter 9. Let's get started. Danny looked up as Tim Drake Wayne strode into the lab and closed the door quietly behind him. Tim? Mm-hmm. Tim hummed as he sat down his thermos and then shed his messenger bag, coat, and school jacket onto an open part of the desk. Danny watched with bemusement. The kid looked half asleep. Not that it isn't great to see you again, but what are you doing here, honey? Bruce is on a call running Luther in circles and then has to talk to Legal about some stuff because Luther is always an ass. We're supposed to go run an errand and then to dinner together, so I'm stuck here until he's ready to leave for the day. I'm sorry, Danny said honestly. It's okay. At least Bruce won't forget, not like... Tim shut his mouth with a snap, seeming to suddenly think about what he was saying. It's okay, I get it, Danny said, because he did. You need somewhere to hide out until then? Yeah, Cass is right. It's calm here. Okay. Sit wherever you want, that's clear. If you need something, let me know first, okay? Thanks, Tim said, shoulders finally losing some of their tension. Of course, whatever you need. Not wanting to push Tim in any way, Danny kept a subtle eye on the boy as Tim absently wandered around Danny's office. To Tim's credit, he didn't try to touch anything or move things around, even as he obviously grew increasingly tired. It would be a lot, Danny supposed, to be a teenager trying to live up to the legacy of two important families in the area, learning the business, going to school, and hopefully also spending time with friends. Danny knew how hard it had been with only having Phantom as an obligation. While sure, Danny wished Tim had maybe chosen a less neck-cramping spot, he was happy that the next time he checked, Tim had finally settled down for a nap. Under one of Danny's workbenches. Danny couldn't fuss too much. He'd done that plenty in grad school himself. Once Tim seemed properly asleep, Danny got up to fetch his cardigan from the hook by the door and drape it over the sleeping kid. Tim let out a little huffed breath of air before he snuggled further into the cardigan and settled back into sleep. It made Danny's heart melt in a way that he didn't want to think about too hard. It really was no surprise when, about 45 minutes later, one Bruce Wayne poked his head into Danny's office. The door was hardly open when Danny had his finger up and over his mouth in the universal sign of hush. Bruce tilted his head curiously. Danny gave a little nod toward the workbench that Tim was sleeping under. Silently, Bruce moved to the workbench and crouched down next to it. There was a soft, amused sound before Bruce reached out to brush his hand over Tim's forehead, as if habitually checking for a fever. When Bruce returned to where Danny was working, he asked softly, "How long has he been asleep?" "A little over half an hour. It took him about 10 minutes to settle in," Danny answered, voice equally quiet. "Then do you mind if I let him keep resting for another 15 minutes or so? He's likely to wake up on his own then." Danny shook his head. "Nope, let the kid rest. He seems like he needs it." Bruce glanced at Tim, his expression that soft sort of worried only parents seem to get. "He does. He works too hard at everything. He's always trying to prove himself, even when he doesn't need to anymore." Danny made a little questioning noise as he got back to fiddling with the annoying tiny screws. His parents were demanding. They had very exciting ideas of what proper high society behavior was, Bruce explained. "I'm sadly not the best suited at dismantling those ideas either." "Ah, well, what do you do that encourages him to be a kid?" Danny asked. "He skateboards, actually. He's going to get his new deck today. He always enjoys photography, but even that became a goal, what with art competitions at school. Maybe take him and Damien on a mini art vacation, somewhere pretty. Somewhere where it's not about judges," Danny suggested. He finally got the last screw seated, so he glanced up at Bruce's thoughtful face. "That's a good idea. I'll start looking at what might work. Thank you." "Sure, ideas are kind of what I do," Danny said, and motioned to the office around him with a screwdriver. Bruce's answering chuckle was low and warm. I suppose it is. I hope you're not also overworking yourself. I'm doing much better, Danny assured Bruce. I just needed some rest. Which my children made sure you got. I'm still sorry they kept you so long on Friday. It was Danny's turn to laugh. Honestly, I don't think you really have much control over what they do. No, I really don't, Bruce admitted. But I wouldn't have it any other way. That's good. They're a pretty amazing family, Danny said with a soft smile. And if I don't get to be sorry about falling asleep, you don't get to be sorry about making me rest. You drive a hard bargain, but deal. I am a master businessman, Danny teased, and ducked his head to hide his smile. I'll have to watch for corporate takeovers. Keep an eye on the stocks and papers. Maybe? Oh, speaking of, well, not speaking of, but sort of related, I was joking about us making the papers. Bruce hummed curiously. So Danny set aside his tools to pull up the story that several coworkers had sent him on his tablet. He spun it around to face Bruce. The picture of them in the box was big on the screen. They were pressed almost chest to chest with Bruce's arms around Danny. It certainly looked incriminating. Well, shit, Bruce said with a sigh. He picked up the tablet to scan through the article. There wasn't anything in it, of course, just wild speculation. I hope you haven't been harassed about this by anyone. I don't think anyone knows who I am to harass me, Danny said honestly. Some coworkers have sent me it, but apparently it's just my luck to have both randomly run into a Wayne, be invited to an event, and then have one of my spells when I'm around them. Bruce looked at him with one well-manicured brow raised. You have interesting luck. Yep, it's been quite a life so far. I was pretty much born into interesting luck, and life has really lived up to that luck and also died by it, Danny said with a little chuckle as he took his tablet back. I feel concerned about that last part. Danny hummed in question, distracted by pulling his notes back up. The having died by the luck part, Bruce clarified. Oh, Danny smiled, but he knew the expression was less than a happy one. I think I mentioned that there was an accident when I was a kid. Bruce nodded, leaned his elbows on the workbench with his arms crossed. You did? One that is apparently still affecting your pulse to this day. Yes, well, Danny glanced away from Bruce. Why was it still so hard to talk about? When I was 14, I was electrocuted at an industrial level voltage. Unsurprisingly, it killed me. But hey, obviously I came back. But that sort of thing sticks around. I'm sorry. Danny looked back at Bruce, honestly startled. And all this time, Danny wasn't sure if he'd ever heard a "I'm sorry" about his accident, not without strings attached. His lips quirked into a smile again, this one more pleasant. Thanks. Trust me, though, I'm grateful that life had been calmer. Whatever Bruce was going to say to that was cut off by a loud yawn, the sound of someone shifting around, and then the unmistakable bang of a limb against the metal legs of one of the workbenches. Quiet cussing followed a moment later. You okay there, Tim? Danny asked. Fine, Tim hissed back. I'm sure I have an instant ice pack in my office. We can grab one before we leave, Bruce said. B? Tim asked, voice notably brighter. A moment later, Tim appeared out from under the desk. Hi, sweetheart. Sorry that I had to take that call, Bruce said as he stepped over to Tim. He reached out to brush the teen's hair a little straighter. It's fine. It's Lex. I get it. I know you get it, but that doesn't mean it has to be fine. Tim shrugged. The action made him notice the cardigan draped over his shoulders. A little blush rose on his cheeks as he took it off and handed it back to Danny. Sorry. Nothing to be sorry for, Tim. You weren't any problem, Danny assured him. You're welcome in my office whenever. You're going to regret that, Tim said. Danny just shrugged with a smile. Come on, chum. Let's go find that ice pack. "We'll still get to your store before it closes," Bruce said, and started to guide Tim out by the shoulder. Bruce glanced behind him, and Danny gave a little wave to the retreating Waynes. "His luck indeed." "What happened in Danny's office that's bothering you?" Tim asked. He had the ice pack pressed against his elbow and was sitting almost sideways so he could take in all of Bruce's expression. Bruce was doing that thing where he was feeling big, complicated emotions and wishing he wasn't. Tim could read it in the way that Bruce's shoulders were set, that little bit of tightening under his eyes, and the way he was very purposely not frowning. "B," Tim pressed. Bruce sighed, the sound all of his air. "I think we should leave Danny alone, both as Waynes and as bats." Tim jolted and scrambled to sit up further. "Wait, what? Bruce, what happened?" "Nothing bad," Bruce assured Tim. "Nothing bad happened. Vicky got a picture of Danny and I at the ballet. We spoke some about it, and Danny talked about how he had interesting luck. He said he was grateful that life had been calmer. He had to change that has to had." "Oh." "It's just that..." "No, you're right. I'll try to talk to the others about it, because you know they won't listen to you." "I'm sorry, Tim." "It's fine. I get it." That was the end of chapter 8. I'm going to go ahead and read chapter 9. It had been 2 weeks since the last Rogue Wayne visit. Danny hadn't intended to keep track. There was no reason to. One visit from Cass and one from Tim did not make a pattern. He tried to dismiss the observation. He had plenty to do. It wasn't like he didn't have friends. The bi-weekly trivia group would start meeting again soon. He also had a TTRGP session that did its best to meet around all that life threw at them. Tucker and him played online games when they could make schedules match, and he and Sam talked when she was stateside. He even had regular enough lunches with coworkers. Still, there had been something different about spending time with the Wayne family. So, no, Danny hadn't meant to keep track, but he still knew it had been 2 weeks and a day. But, of course, he couldn't see the Waynes that often. Bruce was a very busy man, and most of his children would have no reason to come to WE. They had their own lives with work and school and being kids or young adults. The other visits had simply been flukes, as nice as the visits had been. The subtle feeling of melancholy that had settled over him was ridiculous, and he wasn't having it. His mood was simply off because of the whole ancient thing. The way it was affecting his health didn't make feeling better any easier either. Danny leaned against the wall of the elevator as he tried to catch his breath. He really shouldn't be walking right then to get to lunch, not with the way that he felt. But he hadn't had anything at his place to make lunch with. He hadn't had the energy to go shopping. He figured he could just grab something close instead of walking to anything on the other side of the park. The natural reverb in the lobby assaulted Danny as he stepped out of the elevator, and he almost retreated right back to his office. He was starving, though. He just had to get through the lobby, the street, the restaurant, back through the street, and through the lobby again. Then he could hide in his office and eat. Or he could hide in there and eat as long as Lucius didn't find him. Maybe even Lucius would give him a break, though, today. "Dr. Fenton?" Danny looked up from rubbing at his neck. It was Tim. Damien was at Tim's side, flanking him like a little guard dog and scowling. Tim was frowning, too. Danny immediately wanted to fix whatever was wrong. "Look at that! A pair of Wayne chicks. How are you two?" "That is unimportant," Damien said with a little sniff. "You are clearly unwell. I assume you are returning to your apartment to rest." "Oh, no, I'm just going to grab lunch. I'm all right, really," Danny said, and he put on the best smile he could muster. Tim and Damien looked at each other in some sort of silent conversation. Danny started to edge away from them, thinking he could escape before they came to some sort of conclusion. He really needed out of the lobby and its echoing sounds. A startled shriek from the entryway cut off that plan. Danny twisted to face the sound as he stepped in front of the kids. Of course it was a rogue. What else could it be in Gotham? Well, it was a rogue, but at least it was only the Mad Hatter and his squad of likely mind-controlled goons. He usually wasn't prone to death and destruction like the others were, but still, Danny felt his metaphorical hackles rising. The kids were here. The kids were here and sure to draw the Mad Hatter's attention if he saw them. Danny stepped slowly backwards, herding the kids away from the scene. At least they weren't far into the lobby. Back up to the stairwell, Danny said lowly, trying to cast his voice behind him. The elevator. The back left one, Tim said quietly but firmly over his brother's protest. I have a code to take it to a safe room in the basement. If he kills the power, Danny started. The elevators have emergency backup. That's not a very good behavior for a tea party, is it? The Mad Hatter shouted at someone. Danny bit back a rising noise of anger in his throat. His fingers twitched to act, but he couldn't. The plan was to get the kids out of there and away from any action. Yes, I see, Damien, Tim hissed before saying a bit louder. We're almost to the elevator. Call it as soon as you can, Danny said. Was there reverb in his voice? It felt like there was reverb in his voice. No, he couldn't. He had to... That's better. See? Now this is how you behave when someone invites you to a tea party. Now, where is that little dormouse? The Mad Hatter called. I know I saw him come in here. With an even literal one, too. The Mad Hatter wanted Tim. He wanted Tim. Calling the elevator. Another mouse? A rat? A cat? The Mad Hatter wanted Tim and Damien. Here, mousy, mousy mice. Where are you? Danny would not let that happen. Oh, there you are. Hiding by the back doors. Of course he is, the Mad Hatter said. The crowd parted in fear. His wide, manic eyes looked right past Danny, and he grinned. Get them. We have a tea party we're late for. Over my dead body, Danny growled. The Mad Hatter blinked at Danny like he had just noticed him for the first time. His goons rushed past him and through the crowd. Oh? Who are you? Never mind. If death is what you want, we can make that happen. Danny couldn't hold back the chortling laugh. See, that's where you have a problem you don't even know you could have. And what is that? You couldn't handle my dead body, Danny said, just as the first goon reached him. Danny stepped forward, ducked under the swing of a punch, and used the momentum to spin the goon around. With a push of his ghostly power, he sent the attacking goon careening into the next, and then both of them went tumbling. Danny, it's here, Tim shouted. Not turning his back to the attackers, Danny stepped backwards into the elevator. Tim slammed the button, and the doors basically snapped closed, much faster than they should. Danny was left staring at the polished metal surface of the elevator. Luminous green stared back at him. Soft black feathers dotted his temples. His fingers ended with talons, and he could feel it. He could feel the skin on his back started to split. Wings. Tim watched as under Danny's shirt and sweater, his body started to distort. It could be the wings, Tim realized. Danny was becoming that bird creature again. The wings, the talons, the eyes. Tim met Danny's eyes in the gleaming reflection of the elevator doors. Immediately, Danny ducked his head, clasped his clawed hands behind the back of his neck, and curled in on himself as if trying to make himself look smaller and less threatening. I won't hurt you, Danny whispered. The voice seemed to echo around the elevator, as if coming from all directions. I know this is... I promise. I won't hurt you. I'd never hurt you. I'm not... Of course you wouldn't, Damien said casually. You are protecting us. I'm trying, Danny said, the words pleading. Danny stumbled suddenly against the wall of the elevator. The bit-back scream was dissonant against the ding of the elevator reaching the sub-basement. Tim grabbed Damien's arm, stopping him from going to Danny. Wings. Brilliant white wings marred with spots of black tore through the shirt, burst through the sweater, and erupted into the confined space. There was a metallic screeching, and it took Tim an embarrassing long moment to realize that it was the escape hatch on the tip of the elevator being pried open. Danny's wings blocked Tim's view, pushing him backwards.
"Get to the safe room."
"Dr. Fenton, Danny."
"Now, Tim, keep your brother safe. I'll be right behind you."
Danny lied. "No, we will not be leaving you," Damien protested, trying to pull his arm free from Tim's hold. "He doesn't know," Tim hissed into Damien's ear. Damien stopped struggling. He was almost pliant as Tim pulled him back towards the safe room that was besides the hidden access to more bat-related things. And fuck, if Tim didn't want so badly to go left instead and through the hidden door so that they could come back as Robins and help Danny. Instead, he stepped inside the safe room. Damien stood beside him. "I will never forgive you if he dies." "I know." Tim wouldn't forgive himself either. "Just stay behind us, Mr. Wayne," Maria Ramirez ordered. Bruce nodded as he paced. Facts about her ran through his head without his bidding. Ex-Air Force. Bruce had hired her after she left, angry with an honorable discharge the Air Force hoped would keep her quiet, while the man who assaulted her got a pension. She was a little hot-headed, took shit from no one, and was impressively competent. If she continued performing the way she had, she'd be Bruce's choice for the next head of security. He still didn't want to listen to her. His kids were at the end of that stairwell, along with the Mad Hatter and several of the man's goons. Bruce was confident in Robin and Red Robin's abilities to protect themselves from the threat, but this was different. This was Damien and Tim. Robin might be magic, but the child in the suit was just a child, and children could die. Bruce shook his arms out to try and get rid of the nerves. He could afford the motion as Bruce Wayne, where he couldn't as Batman. As Batman, he could have been at the front of the pack and already through the door. Bruce had to wait. He measured his breathing, forcing it slow. Ramirez held up a fist. The rest of the security force readied themselves. 1, 2, 3. They breached the door with shouts of hands in the air and get down on the ground. "I work here! Dr. Daniel Fenton, R&D, Danny's voice called out. "Get on the ground, hands behind your head, slowly," Ramirez ordered. Bruce burst out of the stairwell. "I can vouch for..." Wings. Danny had wings. He was still human enough, but he had inky black wings that were spread wide along with his raised hands. Dr. Fenton. Ramirez glanced at Bruce, but kept her trank gun trained on Danny. "Sir?" "I can vouch for Dr. Fenton. He is a friend of the family," Bruce said, more evenly as he took in the rest of the scene. There was a remarkable lack of blood for the bodies scattered around the small space. Some were unconscious, while others clutched their heads. The floor was scattered with crushed mind control devices and the occasional feather. The Mad Hatter was as far back in the elevator as possible, mumbling about ravens and writing desks. Danny stood in front of the door to the safe room. His wings spread, assured no one got past him. The outside of Danny's wings were white, Bruce realized. It was like they were inverted from the larger bird form. "Tim and Damien are in the safe room," Danny said quickly, breaking through Bruce's thoughts. "They're not hurt." Bruce's shoulders slumped. "Thank you." He ran his hands over his face and sucked in a purposefully even breath. Then he dropped his hands and looked at the security team. "Dr. Fenton's metastatus is a personal matter not to be discussed. Am I clear?" There was a chorus of "yes, sir" from security and a soft, relieved "thank you" from Danny. Bruce nodded and strode toward the safe room. He snagged Danny by the wrist as he passed and pulled the stunned man along with him. "Bruce?" "Thank you," Bruce said again as he started the biometric scan for the safe room. His thumb ran rhythmically over the back of Danny's hand. The skin there was soft, like the down feathers of a chick. "Thank you for protecting my boys." "Of course, I always will," Danny said. He sounded completely serious, though Bruce could feel Danny's hand trembling in his own. The vault-like door hissed as the air seal released and started to open. Bruce knew that Danny had said the boys were fine, but as soon as the door was open wide enough, Bruce pulled Danny into the room and the semblance of privacy that it offered. "Are you all right? Are you both all right?" Bruce asked. He rested his hand on Tim's cheek while he looked to Damien, who was standing against the side wall, arms angrily crossed. "No one even laid a hand on us or got close," Tim said. "Danny, Dr. Fenton, made sure of that." "Which was completely stupid," Damien bit out, his words harsh and angry and hurt. "Damien," Danny tried. "No, it was stupid. You willingly deprived yourself of allies. If you insisted on us being in the safe room, you should have been in it also." Danny's wings drooped. "Damien, honey, this form of mine is still new. I didn't want to risk." "You said you wouldn't hurt us." "I would never. But there's still things that could go wrong." "Shut up!" Danny flinched back at the shout, wings pulled tight against his body. Then he took a carefully measured breath and made himself relax. The wings opened up again a little, and, with clear uncertainty, Danny opened his arms also. With all the speed of his training, Damien dashed forward. He rammed into Danny hard and wrapped his arms around Danny, clutching him tightly. Danny leaned down a little. His wings came forward to wrap protectively around Bruce's youngest. "You are an idiot," Damien said harshly into Danny's sweater. "Sometimes," Danny agreed. "But it's all right. We're all safe. It's all right, little chickadee." This concludes A Thing with Wings by PaperPuffin, chapters 8 and 9. I didn't think I would do both this time. I freaking love these two chapters so much, especially 8. So it's a personal headcanon of mine that Bruce is at least slightly on spectrum for autism, mostly because I can relate to him a lot in the terms of being like emotionally constipated. And I like that it kind of touched on that a little bit. Also, I love how fatherly Danny is being, and I love how we get more into the bird thing. I really like that it draws on Danny's desire to protect. I think it's so cool, and it's something that I love when I see in fics, that Danny has this natural urge to protect people and things that he cares about. So I love that we're getting so much of that in this fic. But please do share your thoughts on this golden piece, and don't forget to reach out to the original author, again, linked in the description, to express your thanks. And of course, thank you so much for listening to this Dragon's Horde.